One of the things you and I have talked about a lot is the role of government.
Yes.
And given the financial constraints of the state and the federal government, let's talk a little bit about what the role of government should be, and also the expectations that so many members of the public seem to have today of government. Are those expectations reasonable? And if not, how do we change those expectations?
Well, Aaron, I hate to put it this way, but our generation, your generation and my generation, are kind of guilty for allowing expectations to get beyond capabilities and beyond really where our Constitution envisioned that this government should be. Our Constitution didn't envision, for example, that we would have the government that owns a ski area or special districts that own, things like Waterworld, things like that. And so what's happened is the expectation has been allowed to grow, but people still in this country pride themselves on individual freedoms, personal responsibilities. And so we now have to bring these back together. And again, that is where there's a division between, I think, where my opponent and I are. The pattern that he has followed and his party, and I'm not holding, it's just an honest difference of opinion, different path we're going down. Their idea is more of the President Johnson, kind of the Great Society days, where what you do is you continue to grow government to meet expectations. My belief is that we have overgrown government and we need to reduce it. One, we can't afford it. Two, it has impeded too much on people's personal lives. And three, we do have an entitlement type of society. Now, I saw, not too far back, a few weeks, a couple months maybe, Ed Rendell. He's a Democrat. He's a governor of the state of Pennsylvania. And behind him, he had a bunch of protesters. And he was saying, well, I'm going to have to reduce some programs. They said, well, you got a lot of protesters out there. And he said, well, that's right. He said, do you know what they're protesting? He said, I cut their checks from the government. Now, these weren't state employees, but these were beneficiaries of some federal program. He said, I cut their checks by $5 a year. And that's what you're up against. And he went on to talk about entitlement. So when I look at Colorado and say, where do I really think the people, and what do I want to do to help the people of this state build a team so we can have this state where we want it for the next generation? Where do we want Colorado to be? Several things. One, Colorado needs to be a very pro-job state, pro-business, big on small business. Colorado has a fabulous environment. We need to protect it. But does Colorado really want to grow the impediment of a large government? How much of state government should be entering the local classroom? Should that be left at local school districts? How much regulatory should the government provide everything that we just can't do it. We can't afford it. And so I would reduce the size. There's a lot of very basic things, like, for example, the disability community. Now, for personal reasons, I have a kind of a sweet spot for children or adults with Down syndrome. That's just very special people, special in a very complimentary form. They're very, very, I just have a special place for them. Now, all of society is going to say, you know what, I don't mind, we pitch in. Now, you do that, and then you come up here and say, now, wait a minute. Should we have retirement plans that are uncontrolled for state employees, or do state employees, should they be treated on kind of on par with private marketplace? And we have a lot of good state employees, but are we realizing the kind of efficiencies to help them maximize their work for the state? So there's a lot of fertile territory out there that can give us more efficient government without growing government, but instead growing the job market on the private marketplace.